I'm Chris Altrock, and I want to introduce the spiritual practice of the Examen. Kendra and I will often FaceTime our daughter Jordan, who lives in Nashville. Because of her busy schedule at the hospital where she works, often many days will go between the times when we FaceTime her. And so we're always trying to catch up with what's been going on in each other's lives. And Jordan will say, well, what's been going on there? And we'll try to recall all that's happened in the days since the last time that we talked to her. I'm always surprised at how much has actually happened in those days, things that I forgot about until we actually sat down and recalled them for our conversation with Jordan. There's so much that happens during even a typical, ordinary, mundane day that we forget about, that we're not present to. And it can be a great blessing to recapture that, to recall that. And that's really what's behind the practice that we call the Examen. This word examine comes from Latin, and it was used to refer to that pointer on a weight scale that would show exactly how much something weighed. And so the word examine came to refer to an accurate representation of reality. What the Examen does is it allows us to have an accurate representation of what actually happened in the last day that passed. This practice was popularized by a man known as Ignatius of Loyola. He was the founder of the Jesuits. And of all of the spiritual practices that we can be involved in, Ignatius said the Examen is the most important spiritual practice. As he wrote about it, there were 5 basic steps. I've reworked his language so that each of these steps start with the letter R, hopefully making them a little bit more memorable. 1, recognize that you're in the presence of God. And so take a moment to be still and silent. 2, request enlightenment from God. Ask God to open your eyes, to give you awakening and illumination as you review the last day. 3, review. If you're doing this in the evening, review the day that's just passed. If you're doing it in the morning, review yesterday. And try to let that day replay in your mind like a film. Jesuit author James Martin, in his book, The Jesuit Guide to Almost Everything, writes this: push the play button and run through your day from start to finish, from your rising in the morning to preparing to go to bed at night. Notice what made you happy, what made you stressed, what confused you, what helped you to be more loving. Recall everything: sights, sounds, feelings, tastes, textures, conversations, thoughts, words, deeds. Each moment offers a window to where God has been in your day. 4th, reflect on what you notice as you do that review. And finally, resolve to live differently the rest of this day or tomorrow based on what you've discovered in your review of the last day. Traditionally, Ignatius talked about 2 different kinds of examens: the examen of consciousness, where we ask, how conscious was I aware of God in the day that's just passed? Where did I notice God during that day? And the examen of conscience, where we explore our character, our morality as it played itself out in the day that's just passed. There are many different ways to practice the Examen, and many different things that we might look at as we review the last day. Jesuit author Mark Thibodeau, in his book Reimagining the Ignatian Examen, provides 31 different kinds of examen that we can engage in. So this is a spiritual practice that has a great deal of flexibility to it. I would encourage you to consider these pairs of questions. Just take one pair as you review and reflect on the day that's just passed. When was I living in faith, hope, and love? And when was I living with fear, despair, and condemnation? Or what was life giving yesterday, and what was life draining yesterday? When did I give and receive love, and when was I not living in love? When did I experience freedom, and when was I most unfree? For what am I most grateful regarding yesterday, and when was I ungrateful throughout the day? When was I most fully present to God and to others? And when was I not fully present to God and others? And then finally, when was I living from my true center in union with God? And when was I living decentered in my false self with God? These are some of the questions that you might consider as you examined the last day. You could do this in 10 minutes or less. Take some time today to practice the examen.